All good, G. We're going live?
Thanks for having me again. Yeah,
we are live, they say.
Cool, sounds good. How does this look?
I never believe it until I see the chat. Oh, there it is.
Does everything sound good on my end?
Sounds good to me.
All right, cool.
What the hell of a pumpkin you got over there?
Yeah, thanks. I think it's for people's front lawns, but I put it in my living room.
Wow, that's bold. That's a big choice in New York.
I'm very festive. I want to get in the spirit.
Yeah, you got it. Wow, that thing is huge.
It was a long summer. Yeah, thanks a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I think it's so interesting that you still are committed to New York. You're like the last streamer who's still holding it down out there, man.
A lot of people, but every time they come, they love it. Mike Malak is coming here a lot. He said he wanted to move here.
Yeah.
FaZe Banks said he loved it here. Whenever people come, they have even when you came 3 years ago to my Brooklyn apartment, you had a great time.
No, I love it. I love New York, and I heard something that you said, which I completely agree with, which is that there's just so much energy in New York City that it just straight up like powers you through the day. Like I could be out and about in Manhattan on 2 hours sleep and not even think about like going home and chilling out, because it's just that energy just fuels you.
I see everybody notices it and everybody says it, and then they all live in Miami or LA. I don't get why. LA, I start smoking weed again. I get more lethargic. I'm in Ubers too much. Manhattan, the energy, as soon as you step outside and you see the chaos, it's just like you just want to go back to your apartment and treat it as a locker.
I know, and I live in the Valley where it's very easy for me. The vibe outside is just so chill that it just feels like, oh, I could just kind of just relax. I could just take a day off. And New York City is just not a chance.
And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, you got a family. I can understand people wanting to slow down, but I just love I thrive in chaos. I'm always vlogging. I'm always streaming. I get inspired that way, interacting with people. That's how I stay sane. I get mental health problems or whatever people. We talked about this before. I don't think depression and anxiety, a lot of this stuff is real, but I get those symptoms when I'm not within chaos, when I'm not interacting, running around the city, doing 10 things at the same time. That's when I start overthinking and my brain doesn't work as well.
Well, it's interesting to me because you in New York, I could just imagine being kind of controversial. Like, do you feel like New York is one place when I go there, I'm like, oh, trans people are real. Like Antifa is real. Like there's really people outside. Like I remember I was staying in Manhattan. We go to Central Park. There's a class of like young kids. I don't know, probably like 9 or 10 or some shit. And like a whole class, they're all wearing shirts that on the back of the shirts say social justice warriors. And I'm just like, all right, like, sure. Like, that's crazy. I didn't think that kind of shit was real.
I thought that was an ironic term. I didn't know that people embrace that. I mean, at the same time, you can find that all over. You're going to find that in Portland. You can find that in LA.
Yeah.
I don't see it that often in New York. It doesn't. I mean, sometimes you see on stream, like an angry lesbian or a feminist will say something. But other than that, I don't get the interaction that people talk about.
Yeah, a lot of that shit's made up too, because it's like for all the shit that I get online, I go out in public and it's like almost never does anything like that happen. But then again, like, Gavin McGinnis lived in Brooklyn for like forever. And I'm seeing him talk about living in Brooklyn. And I'm like, how do you live in Brooklyn? Like, you just seem like you would be a target for the angriest of the leftists.
I just met Gavin McGinnis for the first time with Jake Shields in New York. He went to like this like Gen X Irish bar, hanging out. He seemed like a New Jersey, kind of like a Bay Ridge, Brooklyn guy. Brooklyn, I think from the LA perspective, they think it's all Williamsburg, yoga, latte, Zoran Mamdani fans. Most of Brooklyn, I mean, if you go to Canarsie, it's a lot of Caribbean, Jamaican people. If you go to Flatbush, you were there with Bobby Shmurda. I saw that was a great vlog.
Oh, thank you.
And around Crown Heights, Flatbush. Brooklyn's not as insane as people make it out to be. But at the same time, then you see like the approval rating for Zoran Mamdani. I don't know if you know who he is, Adam.
No, I do. And I've seen that Eric Adams dropped out and he's got like an 85% chance of becoming the mayor, which is pretty wild.
Yeah, Adams dropped out, and I think he was pretty dead set on doing that for the last several months. We did a stream back in May. He was very cordial. I like Adams a lot. Like personally, maybe I don't agree with everything, but you're never going to with any politician. Mamdani, there's only one thing I like. Everything else I think is kind of dumb.
Yeah.
And I am. I became pretty certain he was going to become elected. Like as soon as I saw him pop up, you could see all the leftists. They want a democratic socialist or a socialist or even a communist. It's getting, it's getting so polarized, and I just don't want him to mess up too bad. He's a young guy, but I really hope he doesn't fuck it up just to get, some approval points from his weirdo fans.
Right, because like the left seems so lost. They just don't know what they are right now. They don't know how to identify themselves to appeal to the masses, to the working class voters again. And I kind of feel like the thing that they need to do is just become the party that is the anti or that is that is really the party of the people, that really like every political agenda that they're pushing is this is how we're going to make working class people's lives better, and the focus needs to be like 100% off all of the woke shit. All that shit is poison to what they need to be pushing. And with the Madani guy, I see a little bit of that. I see like there's a little bit of like even like the rent hike freezes, the rent control stuff, or the we're gonna open our own supermarkets that aren't gonna like be for profit or whatever. But a lot of it seems kind of misguided, and when I actually like look into those prospects, it just seems kind of ridiculous. And I don't know, but at the same time, I mean, it does feel good to see at least some focus on the left in a positive way of like, oh, okay, maybe they're coming to something that will allow them to harness some kind of popularity, because right now it just feels like they just got nothing. And I don't know, maybe he could guide them back in a little bit of a good direction, but then they go back into his old tweets and he's saying defund the police, and I'm like, oh, okay, he can't be the guy.
Yeah, I thought that he was just using the transgender issue to gain support from the woke people, and then you see him bring up proposals where he wants to give $65 million to gender approving healthcare. It's like, oh, okay, this isn't just a grift. I thought he was just grifting, but I mean, but you bring up a great point. The wealth gap, right or left, no matter what you are, for some reason I get called a socialist when I talk about it, but like that, the average Gen Z American has $94,000 in debt. The amount of billionaires in the 1% is not the same compared to what it was in the 70s and 80s. Our parents, for example, people, the boomers were able to buy homes, were able to have jobs. And now the unemployment rate is higher than it's ever been since 2021. People are in debt. And even something as simple as buying a home for Gen Z is like a wild pipe dream. That's like the end. That's the dream life, being able, just being a homeowner, that was the standard of living, a couple maybe one generation ago. For that to become a pipe dream is, that's a scary sign when there's less married people than ever. Mm-hmm. People are not having as many children. Being able to afford not only rent for yourself, but rent for, food for your child and diapers, those things should be the standard of living, especially for a first world country, for the world superpower that people call America. And for that to become, a dream, that shows a genuine problem. And I don't see anybody really talking about it. I don't see anybody in the right speaking about it. They're mostly focused on the culture war, people talking about Israel, geopolitics, but it's like, what about the average American here? What about the glaring reality that not AI is going to be replacing so many of these jobs? Yeah. People don't know how they're going to live.
Yeah. I mean, like when I was a kid, it was kind of just taken for granted that when I graduated high school, maybe I go to college for a few years, but realistically, you graduate high school, you get a job, you get your own place, and that's your life. And, when I look at the world that my kid is going to be set free in at some point, it's just like, how could I ever convince her of this myth that you're going to go to college for 4 years and then you're going to get out and you're going to be able to have this great life? When you see all these kids who are sold this dream of becoming a coder, and now those jobs have just disappeared via AI, via just the fact that like those promises were really inflated in the first place. I don't know. It's kind of like a scary world that we're like unleashing our kids into. And I don't necessarily know where it goes from there. Like, I don't know how I'm even going to be able to convince my kid that she should want to go to college when it seems like the only people who are really able to even do something for themselves are people who start their own thing, become a content creator, etc. I don't know, like if maybe in 15 years that dream is just going to have popped to an even more extreme extent.
I think even the majority of content creators, have you seen Sora 2, Adam?
No, who's that?
Sora 2 is the new chat GPT software. It just popped up, I think, yesterday, the day before. And it is scary how good it is.
Really?
Last night on stream, like, so you could just upload a video just saying a couple numbers, and then it knows exactly what your voice sounds like. And it can create, you just type in a prompt. Like, you can literally type in Sneako and Adam 22 talk about the wealth gap. And there will be a podcast show up in 5 minutes, and it's actually really entertaining.
Wow.
And I think like all the dancing TikTokers, all the, you know, micro influencers, those Instagram people, the motivational stuff, you know, gym influencers, personal trainers, AI is replacing all those people too.
Yeah.
I think even the content creator meta, that seems like one of the few that's not going to be replaceable. But when you see how good this is, it's like, why would you listen to somebody yap and take forever when you could type in a prompt and get it on Sora? It's taken out the majority of influencers. So what are people going to do?
Yeah, and Facebook has like a new feature or feed called Vibes, I heard, that's basically like all AI generated content. So it's basically like TikTok, but exclusively for AI. And this is just its own separate standalone thing. They're like, we're not going to take away your feed, and we're not going to like give you a completely separate, or we're going to give you a completely separate AI feed. And who knows how much that's going to take off? Because I think that, like, for me and you, we're used to living in a world in which you really want to have like a nuanced creator. Like, you know, I want people who have a life story, who've been through shit, who can offer a complex, nuanced perspective. I don't know necessarily that a kid who's 12 right now, but who is really coming of age in the full-on AI age, is going to really care about that in the same way. To him, it might, and same thing for like the porn fans. I mean, sometimes I see the AI girl things that they're offering, and I'm like, man, I guess it does look better than the real version of this girl, so I can't really blame you. And we're now at the point, too, where I see AI girls on Instagram, and I actually can't really tell if they're real or not.
Yeah, I think maybe I'm old fashioned, but I'm the type of guy, like I want the real story. I want a human. Like, that stuff doesn't appeal to me. But the new generation of people, if it's more like, think about how many people are going to replace girlfriends with AI. Like, now in modern dating, you're not really in the dating scene. It's more cooked than it's ever been. The average girl in New York City, for example, the, you know, good looking girl, 25 years old, she's more than likely talking to Chat GPT about her problems. If she has insecurities, or if she has things that she's dealing with, or she wants validation, she's more likely going to ask Chat GPT about it than her boyfriend or somebody else. So the amount of delusion that they can get away with is higher than it's ever been. Right. So for the average guy to be able to pull with this, and I mean, I'm not going to act like I'm the normal guy. I mean, I make a lot of money, and I'm not in the same bracket as the average person. So for me to have to like be able to see these headaches, it's like, imagine the guy making $50,000 a year. He's 25 years old, and now he's got to talk to a girl that won't listen to him and can just get the answer she wants from ChatGPT. It's like, so now this guy is thinking, instead of putting up with all this, I worked a long week, I worked 50 hours, I'm tired, it's a Friday night, I want to make sure that I get my stress relief so I can go back to work and maintain sanity without killing myself. Is he going to go and waste time talking to like a girl who's, you know, got a horoscope app, a ChatGPT app, who's in the group chats talking to her? She's insane. She has the friend app around her necklace. I don't even know if you know what this is.
I've seen that, yeah.
Or is he going to go and talk to an AI girl who's more beautiful, who's going to do what he wants and doesn't make a mess and is not crying?
Because,
what is he going to pick?
My whole time dating, money was never really like a thing, or like, obviously there's a certain amount of status or comfortability that comes with having a certain amount of money, and it's not like women are like oblivious to that. But when I think about all through my teenage years, my 20s, that was really not much of a conversation. And so I have a friend that's like a couple years younger than me. He's got a 14-year-old son, and I was talking to him and his son the other day when I was back in New Hampshire, and his son started to tell me that one of the girls in school that he was dating told him that if he wanted to date her, he needed to buy her a Louis Vuitton purse. This is in New Hampshire. So if I had heard that story from somebody in LA, I would have just thought like, oh my God, these kids, they're so bougie. They grow up, their parents teach them this shit, whatever. This is in New Hampshire. And this is a 14-year-old kid who, how is he ever going to get $3,000 or whatever for a purse? I don't know. Like, that just blew my mind that like all this shit is trickling down to the younger generation, where all that stuff that like early Manosphere was talking about in terms of like, these girls just want money and like, you know, you're not going to be able to make them happy. So now I'm just kind of like, holy shit, dude, like that's real. Like this is taken over in a way that I never really could have expected.
I mean, we warned everybody. We were telling everyone. I personally haven't really dealt with New Hampshire. Is insane. Like Littleton, like a little town, like a ski town for a girl to ask for a Louis Vuitton at 14. And she, you know, she's only getting that. She hasn't met anybody really who said that. She probably saw it from somebody on Instagram.
Yeah.
Could have even been an AI video convincing her to do that. This is the level of propaganda of MK Ultra that's going on with the next generation.
And that's the crazy thing too, is that when his son left the room, his dad told me that girl is all fucked up in the head in particular, because think about it. Apparently, allegedly, I didn't see her or anything, but they were saying she's a little too good looking for her age. So she's getting huge amounts of attention from older dudes. So now she's talking to another dude his age or her age, but she meanwhile has like this totally inflated idea of like what she should be expecting from a boy, because she's getting this crazy amount of attention from, I don't know where these dudes are finding her or whatever. But I was just like, damn, that's even more fucked up situation. Cause it's like, even for somebody that young, these opportunities are right there. Scary.
Instagram is, it's inflated their sense of self-worth, their ego. And also, like, she's 14. How is she going to understand that older guy DMing her doesn't want a relationship and is just some weird dude trying to get a nut? Like, this is not a potential husband. They're not able to comprehend the difference.
If you are 14, if you're a girl who's 14 and some guy buys you an expensive designer purse, I mean, he's kind of fucked shit up for like every other guy that's going to enter her life going forward. Because now she's going to be expecting this weird standard from them, unless maybe she has some kind of epiphany where she realizes that this was a deranged situation in the first place. But either way, I mean, that's just, I don't know. It's like, I feel bad for this new generation of dudes out there, because if a dude told me like, yeah, I'm not really trying to fuck, I'm not really trying to get a girlfriend, whatever, I would probably just be like, yeah, that's like a good, safe decision. Maybe you need to wait till you're like 30 or something.
Which was, like that back then, our parents or my parents' generation, they were already settling down and thinking about having a second kid, or like, hey, maybe we should leave New York and go to Jersey or Connecticut and so. No, like now, men are 30 years old making TikToks. So like men are 30, still like typing, W in Kai Cenat's chat and giving him 30 gifted, like clapping along on their laptop at home. Like this, the difference is. It's like the normal 30-year-old. My dad was already, thinking about having a third kid, and now people are 30 thinking like, okay, should I play another game of Fortnite?
It's fucked up because I come from the BMX and the skate world. I don't know if you know this, but BMX is fucked. BMX is like, really, the industry has kind of been destroyed, decimated. The user base, like, of people who actually want to participate in it, is way smaller. Skateboarding is now kind of going through the same thing, where there's just tons and tons of like skate brands that have been going out of business. Woodward on the West Coast just closed, which was like a big part of, kids who really wanted to become like serious about this shit. That was like a #1 spot that they kind of wanted to go to throughout my whole life. And it's like, when you think about learning to do a bar spin or a tail whip or whatever on a bike, I mean, this is like years of hard work that realistically you're going to bleed, you're going to hurt, you're going to have to spend money on bike parts and stuff. And I mean, this new generation just doesn't give a shit. They're just like, and when you see the number of people who are watching streams, the number of people who are just on TikTok 24/7, it's like all this hard shit that we kind of grew up with that was difficult and took a lot of effort has really kind of gone out the window for a lot of kids, because it's just, they want stuff that's easy and immediately approachable, and a lot of internet stuff kind of does that.
Yeah, it's the clip farm culture. It's the fast-paced, easily digestible. It's watching 3 hours of TikToks rather than watching an hour-and-a-half movie. The level of productivity has gotten to the point where people's attention spans are so bad that watching a movie feels productive.
Yeah.
That used to be a pastime 10 years ago. We used to like go to Blockbuster, watch a movie, and that'd be a way to like calm down. If you finish a movie without looking at your phone more than 3 times, you're like, whoa, I did that. Like you feel accomplished. But I think the pendulum always swings one way than the other way. I was just talking to Ask Pizza on his stream yesterday, and I remember that he came in your podcast a long time ago. I think that's how I first heard about him.
He was probably 16 when he first came on, way back when I first started podding.
I think before his face tat, and I've seen his whole career. Right now, he's in New York City. He has a nice studio. He's streaming for the whole month. And we were having this conversation about how the pendulum always swings one way than the other way. Like a couple of years ago, when Adam, you came to my apartment in Brooklyn, and it was peak COVID, and it was like woke insanity, all this stuff. The pendulum was all the way over here, all the way on the left. Since then, we look back like 3 years later, it's all the way. Now people are having conversations like this. It's normal to be critical of transgenders. It's normal to be critical of wokeism and of Israel, of, Trump and everything going on. It's more, you could have more conversations. The cancel culture's died down. You could say a lot more than you were able to, because as soon as it goes all the way to one side of the spectrum, it's going to go another way. That's how we have Zoran Mamdani. It's been so far over here, and then you get a brown communist who wants to defund the police. And soon enough, there's going to be another mayor that's going to go the other way. So now that culture is all TikTok, I'm sure there's going to be a revival. Like right now, it looks bad with AI, but I'm not a complete pessimist. I do think that AI is going to replace a lot of things in the long term. We'll see 20, 30 years, but in the short term, it's going to be bad for a little bit. But then again, people are going to be like, hey, well, I want something real. I want culture again. I want fashion back. I want something that's going to challenge me, inspire me. And whoever is going to be able to do that and to inspire people again and instill creativity through the generation, that's who's going to be remembered.
Yeah, it kind of feels like the dark ages creatively. I always see tweets where they'll have like a white dude, like, they'll take like an old, Smash Mouth or fucking Sum 41 video or something, and somebody will post it on Twitter, and somebody will inevitably go viral for quote tweeting it and saying, this is what white people should have been doing. Why did they have to start rapping? Which, racist and wrong, and I'm opposed to that. But I also kind of get what you're saying, which is like, even in just like Southern California, it used to just feel like this was a place where there was a lot of like interesting suburban culture popping off at any given time. And now it just kind of feels stale. And a lot of it, I think, and kind of a similar critique in New York, is it feels like it's so expensive that all the fun, unlikely to be profitable hobbies and pastimes have kind of gone out the window, because everybody's just got to, figure out how to get by. When I think about all the BMX dudes, when I moved to New York in 2004, a lot of those were like grown ass dudes, like well into their 20s. And they worked some shitty delivery job or whatever, like 20 hours a week, because they were just hyped as fuck to be outside on their bike. And a lot of that is just not really realistic in a world where you kind of need to have 2 jobs. You kind of need to do Postmates on the side. Everything is so expensive in these main cities. And I feel like the real creative renaissance might pop off in, smaller places that are sort of slowly gathering up population, whether it's like a Detroit or an Austin or something like that. Because I watched like a documentary about like the burgeoning heavy metal scene in the 80s and everything, and it just struck me. I was like, I haven't seen anything like this in a long time, like a new style of music that people were really captured by, that people were super passionate about, people were willing to go outside like every night to be part of something. That shit just don't happen like it used to. It kind of feels like we've discovered every type of music that's going to have its own community. We've discovered every little sport that was going to, have its own community. And now we're just left with TikTok.
I think you brought up like 2 great points. The people getting priced out is one that I haven't seen people acknowledge, like garage bands.
Yes.
The whole, like the Smash Mouth or the, who are these 2000s bands like Alien Ant Farm.
Yeah, Alien Ant Farm. Yeah.
Alien Ant Farm. The reason that you don't see those types of bands anymore, the Nirvanas or that Seattle revival, is because less white people have homes to let their kids play music in the garage.
Yeah,
they don't have time to be like angrily slamming on the drugs because they're priced out of that environment, and then it's just too loud. The dad's pissed off. He doesn't want it. Maybe he has a gym in the garage, or he doesn't have space like. That suburban, grunge era can't happen because it's been priced out. And the second one is white people all becoming rappers rather than creating something unique to their culture. I think that's going to change as well. I think people are starting to realize, and you see a lot of black people talk about this, where they'll see some like really hardcore, like hard R activity, and they'll say, "Oh, the CIA has really done a number on this." And you're squinting, but you know what I'm talking about. It's like where people are glorifying lean, or they're, a girl's on Twitter and she's only talking about back shots, and it's like, what in the brain rot are we talking about? Like, what type? And it has nothing to do with white supremacy. It's like, is this what black culture is? Is it just like talking about weaves and Nicki Minaj's son, or how retarded your BBL is? It's just like the most, and a lot of black people are like, what are we doing?
But I like that the CIA meme is so funny, because for my whole life I've been hearing this thing about how the CIA planted crack in these communities, and I've always kind of tried to find evidence of why that was true, and it's pretty sparse. And I think that I'm seeing a world now where the black community, which, I hate to be Mr. Expert black community commentator over here or anything, but like Jay-Z is a great example. Jay-Z is somebody who I feel like the black community was just like united behind him for all these years. And now I'm constantly seeing people call him out for his hypocrisy because of stuff like, at one point he starts Tidal and he convinces everybody that this is a black owned business. It ends up that he owns like 1% of it. He sells his 1% of it. And it ultimately was just a cash grab for him. Jay-Z recently got denied. He was trying to start a casino in Times Square, and he got turned down. And like uniformly, the residents of the area, the businesses in the area, they were all anti-casino. And let's be real, like Jay-Z is just the face of this business anyway. It's not like a black owned fucking casino. He's just like one of the investors in it. And seeing so many black people on Twitter who maybe 10 years ago would have been the types of people to be like, he's black, he's making money, he's rich, we fuck with him. Now the perspective is a lot more nuanced of like, oh, this is black capitalism, and it's not really like changing anything for anybody besides himself.
Yeah, they use that black-owned business. It's a scam. They're using it to profit for himself. Is Jay-Z really helping the black community? Like, oh, black-owned business, it's a black dude. What is he doing? He's doing spirit cooking with Marina Abramovich. He's like doing these dances with it. He's not giving back to. He's never in New York City and in Brooklyn. He's never back at his apartment complex. He's not improving. He's not trying to wake other people up. In fact, he's living in a gated community with white people.
Out here, yes.
You can see him. He's jogging along with white people. Like, this is not a guy that's trying to help people out. But, and I think people are starting to change their perspective on that quite a bit. And I think also what we're starting to see is, I could hear the responses to this conversation right now. I'm sure you probably thought of it too, where people on Twitter, when they see this conversation, they'll be like, who are Adam and Sneako to talk about the black community? They're not black. But that's the only community that really ever says this, right? I'm mixed. You could talk about I talk about every ethnicity. I talk about we've talked about white people. I talk about the Asian community, the Spanish community, the Jewish community, the Muslim, everything. And nobody else says, you can't talk about this unless you're us, besides black people. And it's like, this is what's also holding the community back. This is what's preventing progression, where Ye said it great. It's like the only thing you gatekeep are braids. The Jewish people can gatekeep, have real estate, can have media conglomerate, like can own countries and politicians, and black people have braids in the M-word. It's like, when you don't allow conversation to happen, when you prevent constructive dialogue, then you don't get to see the flaws and you don't get to see the cracks.
No, I totally agree. And yeah, that's the kind of stuff that should get you laughed out of the room if you say that in a serious conversation. Like, oh, you're not this orientation, so you don't get to have an opinion on that. If anything, listen, maybe you're an expert on that because you have a different lived experience than me. So tell me your opinion, but the idea that I don't get to have an opinion because I am not that specific color, this is just peak stupidity. We cannot tolerate that kind of attitude as a society, and it really needs to be stomped out, if you ask me. But I do feel like I'm just kind of constantly seeing the discourse increase in a positive way. But at the same time, I mean, the anti-sexy red conversation was coming entirely from the right.
But she's also one of the right's favorite rappers. Have you noticed that? Well, whenever there's like, she was at Sydney Sweeney's birthday party, and she's been getting all this criticism for being pro-Trump. She had a MAGA hat on stage. She was there at Aiden Ross's stream, who was very pro-Trump. It's like, it's funny that she's always like the symbol of like the CIA, the black community, but also embraced so much by the right.
Yeah, I mean, really, I feel like being MAGA is not really enough to get you kicked out of the black community these days. Whereas if you think about Kanye rocking the MAGA hat, or even being seen speaking to Trump, maybe 10 years ago or whenever that happened, I mean, that was cataclysmic. That was huge. People thought he would never recover from that. And now, I mean, academics is pro-Trump. You never hear about it. You never hear people like being outraged, and they love to talk shit about academics, but they don't talk shit about him for being a Trump supporter.
What he said, that's another great quote. He's like, maybe it's not that I'm always right. It's just that I'm not right now.
Yeah.
He's always just a little bit too far ahead. Like when I was wearing a MAGA hat in 2015. Back then in 2015, 2016, if you were wearing that red hat, it was a swastika. That was a symbol to other people. I was wearing it in Connecticut, New York. That was a symbol to everyone else that you're allowed to punch me in the face for being a Nazi. Yeah. And now it's become socially acceptable. That's why people who are pushing the boundaries and opening the conversations up a little early, and even though it might offend you, it's an important position to have, because without those people opening up the Overton window, you're going to be saying the same things over and over again. And by then it's going to be too late to realize maybe you were programmed.
100%. So before we even get into like where you're at politically, culturally, et cetera, right now, one thing that I really wanted to talk about was just when you retroactively look at your career as an influencer and a YouTuber, I feel like, you are somebody who has had to pay the full price of being edgy, and obviously losing your YouTube channel was an example, although, we have reason to believe maybe it could be coming back. But when you look at that, you did things that were edgy. When I look at myself, sometimes I wonder, what would my career have been like if I didn't say this or do this, et cetera. But ultimately, like, the kind of sense of humor that I have, the kind of personality that I have, is that I'm always going to be pushing at the edges. And I feel like no matter what, I always would have been able to find something to do that would have basically, offended people and would have got me put in the box of being problematic, canceled, et cetera. And when I think about it, dude, like, there's so many people I've interviewed over the years. I started to kind of compile a list mentally recently while I was driving, who I interviewed, and I thought that they were amazing. They were young. They were full of energy, full of ideas. Fast forward 10 years, 8 years, whatever, and they're basically just canceled. And maybe they still have some version of a career or whatever, but it's so easy to get canceled at this point in our society. And the thing is that in order to get attention as a content creator, you almost have to do things that are edgy or controversial. But then if you're going to really become big at some point, all of those things will then be held against you, and you'll basically be told, no, you can't have these brand deals because of the fact that you basically got attention by doing something early on. So tell me how you think about all that as somebody who's kind of done it all over the last 10 years.
I don't really care about things like brand deals or things holding me back. My brand and my community has always been about, my motto is seek truth through funny. So I speak about what's happening in the world. I like to have difficult conversations, but at the end of the day, it's like the writing on the wall could be pretty scary sometimes. So we might as well laugh until we get there. We might as well enjoy it. And this is also entertainment. So, I mean, I've lost a lot, of course. YouTube put out a good statement saying that they want to reinstate people who were banned for COVID and election misinformation. Those were 2 of my 3 strikes. So we'll see if they're really going to uphold their word. That'd be great to see. I'm regardless of what happens, I've so much has been taken away, and I've been vindicated about so much. I think one of the major examples was being critical of Chris Tyson, Chris and Mr. Beast. Back then, like, that was 2 years ago where I was speaking up a lot about, hey, man, maybe kids shouldn't be, looking up to a guy taking HRT. This is a kind of a weird pervert, and I don't encourage this, and no one else is talking about it. And people said, you're transphobic, you're hateful, you're spreading bigotry. And then a year later, they say you're right. Same thing, I talked about the vaccine, and they said, oh, you're right wing, you're Alex Jones, conspiracy theory. And then wait a little bit, oh, you're right. I say that there's election misinformation. They rigged it in 2020 against him. They say you're crazy, you're a conspiracy theorist. And then turns out you're right. So at this point, I like being able to be ahead of the curve, and I accept my position. And it's kind of fun to be able to be at the forefront of these conversations, to be able to affect culture that way. So wherever I'm going to be, if I'm on Rumble and I stream on Party now, wherever I am, I think my community is going to be there. And for a while, I was really bitter about that. You know, it really, to be perfectly honest, Adam, I got angry seeing like I was right about this and nobody's apologizing to me. You guys called me crazy and now you see I'm right, but there's no retraction of that. Oh, think about all the people that alienated for, if there's anyone watching this right now who didn't take the COVID vaccine, for example. You remember how alienated we were? Remember when Jimmy Kimmel started a show saying that people who didn't take the vaccine shouldn't get access to hospitals, that nurses shouldn't treat you? And then they continue on with their show telling jokes like they didn't just kind of advocate for you to die. But I've let go of that bitterness and that angriness because I've accepted that a lot of people and the majority of people are going to think this way, and you can't accept people to take responsibility for their wrongdoing. This is just the way it is. And I like to do my stream and laugh it off anyway. This is what the love speech community is about.
Do you feel accepted by the right in general? Because, you know, I know there are people, believe it or not, who are a little too edgy for MAGA. I mean, I remember talking to Lil Pump at one point, and basically like he was about to, he said that he was going to put out a Kamala Harris diss track, and this was while the election was still going on. And I said to him, I'm like, yeah, what happened with that? And he was like, oh yeah, like my connection to the Trump camp basically said that it might not be a good idea. I'm like, oh shit. So they do have lines that they don't want to cross as well. So I don't know. Do you feel like do you feel generally accepted by the right when you go to those kind of events, or do you feel like there's been stuff that maybe you involved yourself in that was a little too far for them?
I just spoke at the NYU College Republicans meeting last week. I did it on stream. It was all these NYU students, and it was right after Charlie Kirk, I think a week or two after he was assassinated, rest in peace. So this was like a time where a lot of them were pretty, you know, the headspace was weird because, you know, they were upset about Charlie Kirk's death, and they're at NYU, this liberal stronghold where all of their classmates are making fun of him. All of their classmates are celebrating his death. And so they came there, and it was a good meeting, and it was good because we're on the same page about a lot of things. But at the same time, when I started criticizing Trump for bombing Iran after saying he was going to start no new wars, people got angry, and they're like, well, Trump is the guy. I'm like, okay, well, remember when he campaigned and said no wars, and then he started bombing? What happened? And like, they don't really know how to respond. And then I talk about how Israel bombed Doha in Qatar. That's a United States ally. It's like, okay, well, Israel just bombed our ally, and then we act like that didn't happen. Isn't this kind of an act of warfare? So I don't know if the word is accepted. I definitely disagree with them on a lot, but it's easy to, I think a lot of MAGA people are patriotic, and they do want to put America first, and they believe in this country. And so if you love America, naturally you're going to gravitate towards the party that says make America great again, that loves the country, that loves to wave the flag. The left has turned the American flag into the Nazi flag and made this terrible thing to wave. So I see that movement, the MAGA movement, as an audience to capture and help steer in the right direction. Although a lot of them have the right intentions, they are misguided because there's so much propaganda out there.
Yo, when you say that about the flag, that stands out to me because I remember in like 2017, I had a buddy of mine, and his friend had a new girlfriend. They went over his house. He had an American flag in the front yard, and the girl, who I believe was black, she basically told him that he was basically a white supremacist because he had the American flag in his front yard. And that was a moment where I was like, oh, fuck. Like, we might never win an election again. This is not good.
See, it used to be the Confederate flag is, the American flag is the new Confederate flag. The Confederate flag was the new Nazi flag. So when this happens and people who love this country and want to put America first see what's going on, naturally they're going to gravitate towards Trump. But there's a lot of flaws. I mean, I think he's done a terrible job so far.
What are your main gripes? Your main gripes with Trump at this point in his presidency? I did notice that a new poll just came out measuring people's feelings about Trump, and you would have thought that there would have been some change, either positive or negative, and it's basically almost exactly what it was prior to the election. Like, the people that fuck with him still fuck with him, and the people that are opposed to him still oppose him, but no major shifts at this point.
I would have assumed that, I haven't seen these polls, I would have assumed that it would have changed and his approval rating would be down. He posted on Truth Social, do you remember this? He said, if you still want the Epstein files to be released, I don't want your support. So that was basically, he stuck up the middle finger to everybody in the Trump base, which is, I think, the majority of the MAGA movement. Maybe they didn't see this post or they don't care.
Yeah.
Saying, if you still want the Epstein files to be released, fuck you. Okay, then fuck you. Because all these people who wanted to drain the swamp, that didn't want the globalist agenda, every Trump supporter wants to see the Epstein files. Every Trump supporter who wants to get rid of the deep state and is against, corrupt politicians. Of course, the Epstein files, that is like the perfect example of the deep state, of corruption, of a flawed system. And so for him to say, oh, this is a Democrat hoax, this is like the Russiagate laptop, it's like, no, I'm not going to believe in this fucking propaganda. We want the Epstein files, and you told us you were going to release them. Just because you might be implicated in them does not mean you can gaslight us all and pretend like it's nothing.
And it felt like there was like a week there where it seemed like some sizable portion of Trump's base was really going to turn on him over the Epstein stuff. And then you fast forward a couple of weeks and Charlie Kirk gets, shot in the neck. And all of a sudden it's like, I mean, if you needed a rallying call to unite the right, that's about as good as you can get. I think that, like Trump's fans, even if they're very skeptical about his treatment of the Epstein stuff and they think that it's very suspicious and they think that, now we have to wonder if our president might be, banging little girls with Jeffrey Epstein. It's still like, where are they going to go? There's only two teams. You're not going to go be like a halfway Trump supporter. You can't really do that. If you're a Trump supporter who's also like pretty critical of a lot of stuff that Trump does, that's not a very valuable space to be in. Most of the people who are anti-Trump early on the right have basically like, measured out their takes to the point where it's still clear that they're really in Trump's corner regardless.
I think that people should be more, well, maybe I've learned, being in politics this long or interested in politics as long, is that like you can't fully jump on anybody's bandwagon because they're so susceptible to making mistakes, and it becomes a cult where there's so many people that end up worshiping him or thinking that he can't do any wrong, or see the fact that he's borderline a fascist dictator at this point, trying to silence his critics or taking credit for keeping TikTok alive, even though it was bought by a Zionist. And some of this stuff is just, we need to be able to think critically about this and analyze without being fully involved in a cult. Because if you think that it's betrayal to say, hey, we want the Epstein files, then you're wrong. I mean, being an American and believing in democracy is having difficult conversations, is looking at both sides. And so I think my advice would be just don't ever fully believe in any politician because they're going to fuck up.
Yeah, but man, like it's just so hard to come to an explanation of why he would not only want to be helpful in terms of revealing the real truth about Epstein, but also just kind of telling his fans to fuck off and, oh, actually, this was an Obama plot from the beginning. I mean, like his fans are just not like they've been taught to be skeptical by him and by all of the other influencers in his orbit. And, it's just these are people who've been primed to not just take the basic, justification for things. And so it's pretty fascinating. I'm not going to lie. At first, I was really shocked to see Candace Owens basically spreading, conspiracy theories about Charlie's death. But earlier today, I had a conversation with somebody who works in PR, and they told me that it is like unilaterally understood within Turning Point that there are so many conspiracy theories, so much of an assumption that things are shady behind the scenes with the government that at this point I've got to be like, okay, maybe Candace isn't totally tripping, because I've just like heard from multiple people that the level of understanding that there's something different than the mainstream narrative going on is so locked in that it's just kind of, I don't know. I feel like shit. Maybe there is some smoke where this fire is appearing, because I'm just hearing it from a lot of different sources.
And for anyone to call Candace Owens insane or say that she shouldn't be questioning this, it's like it's the government's fault for instilling this much distrust in the people. And just look at the last 5 years when they said COVID was going to take 2 weeks to stop the spread. When they changed their mind multiple times, YouTube just admitted and there's so much crazy news that we move on. YouTube admitted the Biden administration applied pressure upon them to ban people who were questioning the COVID vaccine. Yeah. So they are publicly admitting that we don't have freedom of speech, that we don't have the Second Amendment. And Candace Owens was close with Charlie Kirk.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of reason that she should be questioning, and there's a lot of also the mainstream story with Tyler Robinson and the shooter, the sniper. None of this adds up at all. Like he went into the woods, he assembled the rifle, disassembled the rifle, then he texted his transgender boyfriend right away, and then drove and then confessed to his dad. But actually, he hasn't confessed. But he's a high IQ student, but he's stupid enough to text the fact to type all this on his phone, like the FBI isn't watching. Also the response from Kash Patel and Pam Bondi has been terrible. None of the response has added up. Also, the fact that they got rid of the crime scene a week after it happened. We don't have any videos of this guy getting on the roof, even though it's at a college campus and there's cameras literally everywhere. A lot of this stuff doesn't add up. And then you look into Turning Point and you look into Charlie Kirk in the end of his career, saying that hearing that he refused to take money from Netanyahu and from Israel. Some of this stuff, I think, if you're going to accept exactly what the government's telling you right now, I think that's just straight up ignorant. It's just straight up stupid to believe the narrative that the government is telling you right now, knowing that they will lie to you over and over again. So all this recently, look at all these stories from the past several years. Of course, they're gonna cover up the fact that you're called crazy for questioning or wanting more answers. I think everybody should be analyzing this critically and pressuring the government and pressuring people involved to give us the full story.
Yeah, I mean, part of it is that the news cycle just moves so fast that it feels like nobody is really expecting people to still be paying attention in a few weeks or whatever. But I mean, at the end of the day, Charlie Kirk, basically the biggest conservative influencer. It's hard to imagine that people are just going to give up. But I mean, we've just had so much political violence, so many things that are basically school shooting type shit at schools and churches, etc. That, I mean, it is for almost anybody, it's hard to keep your eye on the ball because there's just so much shit going on.
They try to overload you with and bring out so many news stories at once that we forget. It's quick to forget that Israel bombed Qatar, bombed our ally, bombed the embassy in Doha 2 weeks ago, and literally nobody talked about it and moved on. And they didn't even assassinate the targets they wanted. There was supposed to be Hamas negotiators to release the hostages. That's been the narrative for so long. Release the hostages. Okay, Hamas offers to bring people there to negotiate. Israel bombs Doha and Qatar, which is our ally, and then no one speaks about it. Trump barely talks about it, and we move on. And we see all these press conferences with Trump and Netanyahu on the same stage together. Did you see Netanyahu was addressing, also insinuating that Charlie Kirk's assassin was a radical Islamist? So I can completely empathize. And yeah, he wanted. So Netanyahu went on Fox News the day after Charlie Kirk's assassination and said that it was radical Islamists. The next week, he says the person who tried to assassinate Trump worked for Iran. But people just there's so much stimulation overload, so much information flying around that we just act like we didn't see this.
Yeah, in the 90s, that would have been every news story for a week, many weeks. It would have been nonstop. There was just so much less information coming out, and it was so much easier to control it. And now we're at the point where it's just, the one of the things that ended up becoming the most prophetic was when Stephen Bannon rather said that you need to flood the zone. If you want to change these narratives, if you want to be able to get away with whatever you want, you need to flood the zone with new shit. And Trump is probably the biggest master of that. But now it feels like that has trickled down to everybody else in politics and really in social media and whatnot, that you can kind of, create your own narrative or get people to move past things if you just flood that shit. And you see it all the time. We basically seen it with Young Thug, where it's they flooded the internet on a daily basis with these leaked phone calls of him talking shit about his friends and clips from the interrogation tapes, etc. I don't know how much you pay attention to this shit, but it fucked up Young Thug's place in the game so much that he's running around doing interviews, releases an emergency album, etc. And it's all because they just flooded the space with different negative news about him on a daily basis. They got one of the biggest rappers in the game basically completely out the paint, just totally acting like reactionary on his back foot, trying to fight back against all this shit. And that's just how they do it now. When you see a lawsuit come out against somebody like Diddy, and you see, you know, some big claim come out of the news, you know that tomorrow there's another one, and the next day there's another one. They've got this whole rollout plan. We're going to do 30 days of releasing little tidbits from this lawsuit until the people are completely convinced that this guy's a monster. Meanwhile, almost everything in that Diddy case that we were promised did not come to fruition. There's no underage girls. Nobody was getting drugged. If really the extreme of it was that he was, you know, banging, having other dudes bang his chick in front of him, which, you know, how do we even end up here? Why is that even worth talking about in a federal courtroom?
Yeah, what was he guilty of? Flying girls out on Instagram. I think that whole case was kind of, and he's getting 4 years for, which is, it's human trafficking for flying girls out on Instagram. Then I think, man, everybody in the industry is fucked. Like,
the judge said that we need to send a message. I mean, you know, if you ask me, the message here is basically like, I don't know, if you're rich and famous, we could pretty much get fucked for almost anything. I'm not trying to justify the worst of his behavior, but all of the stuff that we were sold, like I did a TMZ documentary talking about Diddy, and I'm sure that if I go watch it right now, it's gonna be so cringe because I bought in on so much shit that was in the news at that time, and I don't think any of it panned out.
Yeah, people were saying that he killed Tupac, he killed Biggie. I think people saw images of baby oil, and then suddenly every Diddy conspiracy theory became true. It's like now he's manipulating the entire industry. I believe some of that stuff too, but I'm wondering why him specifically. Why did he go down compared to anybody else that could have went down? And what does this have to do with Ray J talking about Kim Kardashian and Kris Jenner having a sex trafficking charge that's worse?
Well, the reason why he went down was because of the fact that Cassie, his ex, came out with this big ass lawsuit against him, and he settled, and it was the biggest thing in the media. And the FBI at the end of the day is oftentimes reactionary. Like, yes, they do spend time investigating things that we don't know anything about, but when it comes to celebrities, you know, R. Kelly's a perfect example. You know, he was sitting pretty, not really having to deal with too much bullshit, and then they put out a crazy documentary about him, and all of a sudden he's in prison for years and years and years. And you know, the FBI is reactionary, just like if you and I were in charge of the FBI, I mean, we probably would go after things that were the big attention-getting stories and not just little random things. And Diddy basically just got turned into an example to try to tell people that, you know, you shouldn't fuck around. You shouldn't get too comfortable, too powerful.
So sending a message to everybody else to not, what is it? Is it a threat? Is it a domestic violence thing? Is it a war on men? Well, I'm not sure what to take away from this case.
I do think that, yeah, ultimately it was like litigated on the idea of abuse towards women, even though there's not a lot of great evidence of that aside from, you know, yeah, he beat his girl up in the lobby of the hotel. Very bad. Still, that's not what we're talking about. But it feels like that's basically like why they went after him so hard.
Because that one video of him hitting Cassie in the hotel?
Yeah, well, I think that's pretty much what like indicted him in the minds of the people. You know, like the people really kind of turned on him. He's the one who put out like a sort of crying Instagram story when that came out, asking for forgiveness, acknowledging that he had done bad, etc. And at that moment, it kind of like led everybody to believe like, oh shit, he's guilty of the worst of the things that he's been accused of, even though
that Instagram video was a mistake for sure. When I saw him post that, I started believing he was more guilty than he was. And
he even basically acknowledged in that video, like, my lawyers told me not to do this, but I'm doing it anyway. In retrospect, yeah, you really probably shouldn't have done that. Oh.
So he's guilty for doing freak offs. Does that change your perspective on things?
You know, that's the thing, is that with us, we do it on camera. There's multiple people around who are kind of officiating everything. You know, nobody's on drugs, nobody's getting fucked up, which to me, that's like the biggest combination of things that could get you in trouble. Is if you're flying girls out, okay, this is automatically problematic. Then you're doing drugs. You've now flown somebody out across state lines to do drugs and have crazy sexual experiences. You're kind of, especially if you're rich, especially if you're doing this at scale with a lot of different people, yeah, this could kind of end up bad for you. If anything, it just makes me really thankful that we've always approached the porn stuff that we make from the angle of, oh, okay, we're going to do every single thing above board to make sure that if somebody does want to sue us or does want to put an accusation on us, that there's like almost nothing for them to go off of because there's so many other people around. You know, we've got them filming videos, making it clear that they're not on drugs. This is kind of like industry standard in the porn world. You know, there's a lot that's done to basically make it so it would be hard for somebody to put a false accusation on somebody. But I mean, at the same time, we were having this conversation the other day. Almost every male porn star has a bunch of crazy accusations.
Yeah, it's pretty normal, but I think that goes back to your flood example earlier when people get flooded with so much. I remember 2016, the Me Too movement, a guy getting accusations like career ruining, and now it's so common. And you see soccer players like Danny Alves get, you know, they're not guilty, they have to go to court for the rape cases that nobody believe. Ronaldo gets one every year, nobody believes it. It's like when you get flooded with all this, okay, if everybody's a rapist, then nobody's a rapist. That's kind of what's happening.
Yeah, like Metro Boomin was hit with a nasty lawsuit claiming that he raped some girl. And, you know, Metro Boomin's somebody who's brand safe, you know, like a Nokia or a fucking, you know, Android or whatever. They'll do a brand deal with him. He's somebody who's got a clean enough image, works with all the biggest artists that Metro Boomin, him catching a rape lawsuit, really bad look. But I noticed that there were very few people who were quick to indict him for it. If anything, the attitude was, oh, let's see what information comes out in court. It goes to court. It gets dismissed almost immediately. I'm sure he probably spent like $100,000 on lawyers and shit fighting that stuff. But if that had happened in 2016, I think they would have immediately thrown him under the bus. And it feels like, you know, like a lot, I hate to bring him up again, but Academics is dealing with a lawsuit about something of the same sort. I don't really, you know, Complex is doing all this stuff with them and everything. It feels like a lot of bigger brands have kind of learned that you're going to kind of have to accept some degree of the men that you work with being accused of crazy shit because it just happens, you know?
And so many of these girls now are kind of incentivized to do it. Shannon Sharp, perfect example. What did that girl walked away with, an OnlyFans girl that he was fucking walked away with $10 million just to shut the fuck up. And it's like, she's bragging on Instagram, holding Birkin bags saying, look at the hustle.
Yeah.
It's like, this is a new hustle. It's not only just OnlyFans now, it's finessing rich guys, finessing the Diddies of the world who, you know, have a lot of money and that, you know, you can get away with it because feminism allows it. This is what feminist culture has allowed.
But Shannon Sharp, I mean, yes, he lost all that ESPN shit and everything, and that's unfortunate. I'm sure that feels pretty bad for him in his career, that he could be experiencing this career high with the Cat Williams interview and all these other viral interviews he had after that. But then when it comes down to it, he tries to work with a big corporation. You've seen this happen with Dave Portnoy, same thing. He's, you know, builds up Barstool from nothing to this huge entity, but then as soon as they do the corporate partnership with ESPN, boom, the everybody goes to work trying to paint him as a scumbag, and he essentially loses it. But I mean, for somebody like Shannon Sharp, it's like there isn't that much to gain from partnering with a major media company like ESPN at this point. I'm sure it would be nice, but it's not necessary. And at the end of the day, I mean, that just contributes further to all of the different media companies becoming irrelevant because they can't even touch or do anything with a huge percentage of popular artists because those artists almost always have accusations.
That's a major culture shift too, is that for a while, people like me were exonerated from the media. We were untouchable. Nobody wanted to speak to us. It's like, this was such a brand risk. And then you realize, like, oh, wait, all the interesting conversations are with people that are canceled. Like everyone that we want to talk to that can hold an intellectual conversation that's not just going on to promote a book or some shitty album made by AI. It's going to be the people that you're not supposed to speak to. So I think for a while, so many of the people that were radioactive are like, all right, fuck it. Let's bring them on. Let's talk to them. And maybe that's why YouTube is trying to allow people like me back on. It's like everyone else that's on there is so, like, there's just so many uninteresting nothing burgers going on that they just need to have real voices again. So, but I also, like, you started, yeah, go ahead.
No, I saw some tweets saying that, like, you know, a channel like InfoWars is back, but then that like I just searched InfoWars and absolutely nothing that's showing up in search is actually on the InfoWars channel. It's all basically like liberal channels that are InfoWars Live. Is this actually the channel though?
Is that YouTube?
No, this is not real InfoWars because that's 3,000 subscribers. Either way, I think they're bringing back some of these channels, but then they're not giving them any help algorithmically. They're kind of suppressing the content regardless.
So right now it's a pilot program and nobody's been brought back yet. So we just have
Oh.
to see. And I've heard from different people that it might be 2 or 3 weeks, but nobody's actually been reinstated yet. And I read the whole letter that the guy, Jim Jones, I think his name, or some senator, posted, and the unban, I guess, it only affects people that were banned for specifically COVID and election misinformation. I'm pretty sure Alex Jones, InfoWars, was banned in 2018, 2019 for hate speech, for different things. I've seen people make new accounts. It's like their bans are not listed in what they are talking about specifically. What they're talking about is exactly why I was banned. So I think that I'm the barometer for if they're actually going to follow through with their word. Obviously, I would love to see Alex Jones and a lot of these other people get unbanned as well. But based off of what they just wrote about, I don't think it affects them.
Yeah, and because if you think about it, like I still see people getting videos removed for bullying and harassment pretty consistently. And it feels like, based on my understanding of the InfoWars channel and given that there's going to be a ton of people targeting them, it's probably not going to be that hard to make the accusation that InfoWars is violating some other policies, even if it's not the big obvious ones that they violated previously to get deleted. I don't know. But yeah, you are at the top of my list of somebody who needs to be reinstated. And then also Steve will do it. Although like, again, what he did isn't the kind of thing that's going to be reinstated. It was just like a completely different thing because he basically just showed like a gambling logo, I guess, or the URL.
Yeah, I would love to see Steve will do it back, but I don't think that applies to him. So I think people are getting extremely excited, but we'll see. We'll see. Regardless, this is how you started the conversation. It's like, oh, you want to get brand deals or something? It's like, I'm the brand. I should view it. I think other people should view it instead of trying to get accepted and approved by other brands. Become the brand that other people want to work with. I think that's a more valuable way to approach it, or else you're just going to become a micro influencer that can be replaced by AI. If you're going to be the brand friendly person forever, you're the most replaceable by Sora. You could just be, then you're the talking mouthpiece. Then you go on with an agenda, with a PR. Hey, I'm going to promote and do the dance. And you're never going to challenge the system. And you always got to, you're just a face, and that's it. And AI a lot of times looks better than you. So become the brand. You should be the deals that people want.
It only hurts when you see people who are completely irrelevant in comparison to you, and then you see them getting outsized amounts of money or brand deals or being able to work with these corporations, etc. And you just realize like, oh, I'm 100 times bigger than that person. And they just got a deal from some corporation that I would never get in a million years just because they check the right boxes in terms of identity / they haven't said anything controversial throughout their lives, which that was never going to be me. I was always, that's why I don't lose sleep over it at this point, because I just kind of realized that like, yeah, I've had all these like actual controversies, but if it wasn't that, it was going to be some made up shit. I was for sure going to say something about trans people that got me canceled, even if I currently am controversial enough that I can say almost anything about trans people and it's not going to get me canceled.
I would recommend people just get canceled early. I mean, maybe not everybody if you're not talented enough, but just it's so freeing. For a while I would get really angry, like, oh, I'm not allowed here. I'm really banned everywhere. Like I had to go on Ask Pizza stream. I had a mask on because my face is banned there. TikTok,
Wait,
fake Meta.
He was on what, Twitch?
Yeah, Twitch. And I'm not allowed there for hate speech, and I'm not even sure what I said. I don't. So it's nice. It's actually very freeing. It's better this way. I get to say what I want, but I can't imagine being the type of person that has to jump through the hula hoops and make sure that they don't offend anybody. That seems like a prison. That's a mental prison.
Yeah.
And there's nothing scarier to me than that. And I get there's a lot of people that maybe I'm bigger than or whatever. And a lot of them make a lot more money than me, from gambling sponsorships or from different deals. But it's like, it's not about currency. I didn't start YouTube to make money, to become rich. I did it because I wanted to express myself, because it was an extension of who I am, because I wanted to connect with people. And that's a currency that's more rewarding than cash.
But as far as streaming, is streaming like the vast majority of your income at this point? And how much are you actually streaming at this point?
Well, right now I stream as much as I want. I have a pretty open contract. I can do as I please. I don't stream that much. I try to stream every day, but I don't stream the long out. Like the Phase guys are doing subathon, mafiathon. They're doing crazy like 400, 500 hours. I don't do that. I stream. I try to stream every day, but it's more sporadic, and I like it. I make a lot of these vlogs. I post vlogs on. I started Project X. Because I don't have YouTube, I started posting vlogs on X at the end of last year. And I did that every day up until I started working with Ye in Spain. So that was over, I think, 120 vlogs straight every single day. After I went to Spain, I kind of halted that, but I'm trying to bring it back now. And if I get unbanned on YouTube, that's even great. And I don't do that for money. I made no money doing that. I just did it because I love making videos, and it's cool to be able to express myself that way.
Yeah, sometimes I think about that because, like, my whole time being an influencer, content creator, whatever, I've basically always been trying to like build a machine, build like a business where I could have other people who are streaming with me, doing content, doing podcasts, interviewing people, etc. And then sometimes, especially just getting older, I do kind of think about it of like, what would my life be like if I just kind of fell back and did really what a lot of my peers do, which is they stream, they make content mostly by themselves, and they do that, I don't know, 20, 30 hours out of the week. And then that's kind of like their deal. I mean, that's like something that I've only really even considered or thought about in recent years of like, I wonder what it would be like to just make all my content just me. Because, reacting to stuff is like so huge these days. That wasn't even a thing when I got into making content. It was like, I got into it, like you interview people and, it had never even occurred to me like, oh, in the middle of this podcast, we're going to play a clip and then talk about the clip. That was like a new evolution at a certain point as a person who's been doing podcasts since like 2014.
That's the new meta, and now it's streaming, and it's real. I think live streaming is just going to keep exploding more. If anybody wants to know the meta, if they're interested, now that AI is like, there's so much fake media. Imagine how many boomers are going to fall for these AI videos. Live streaming is something that's that's mostly AI proof as of now, so it's going to continue to grow. People are going to want to interact with somebody in real time and talk in the chat and get a response and see an actual human through the slop that's all over the algorithm.
Yeah, no, definitely. But okay, so all your income basically comes from streaming at this point, or are you balanced where you have other streams of revenue coming in?
Yeah, I have a good balance of everything. It's just funny. It sounded like when they call Adam a Fed and they say that they're trying to that was like one of those Adam Fed questions. I'm joking.
I'm just curious.
But yeah, I make a lot from real estate, and I make a lot from streaming. And, I do the occasional here or there, Yeah, but mostly streaming.
What? You do an occasional what? Drug deal?
No, not drug deal, but, as an influencer, opportunities arise, that type of thing.
Are you still motivated to, like, go to the UFC fights and go to the Twitch cons? I guess Twitch con probably not a good idea, but, like, do you still see value in sort of, like, IRL streaming, all that stuff?
Yeah, I do a lot of IRL streams. I was gonna do one today, but I did this interview and said I was gonna go pumpkin picking with a girl, do something fun, So, but I do a lot of IRL streams. I go to a lot of protests in New York. There's always stuff going on. There was the Diddy thing was today. That was like very close to my apartment. There was an active shooter in Manhattan the other day. A couple months ago, and I was just on the street interacting with people. The people love the street debates. Those always go viral. It's like me just talking to people on the street, which is a very New York type of conversation. Just like, what do you think about this? Oh, just going back and forth. And that's unique to this city. Also, the 1 minute podcast I do, set up the table in the train station. I halted it for a bit after the Kirk assassination, but I think the paranoia has died down. I want to continue the show, so I'll continue doing the 1 minute podcast.
Dude, I'm going to the Destiny live debate this weekend.
You're debating him?
No, not me, but other people are. I'm going to it though, and they've already had to change the venue 3 times.
Yeah, I mean, he's like kind of advocated for violence, and he said himself, like word for word, conservatives should be fearful going to public events. It's like, okay, you're going to say that and then expect everything to go smoothly. It's like, what the fuck did you think you signed up for? I don't know what route he's going down, but it just makes no sense.
Yeah, he's kind of just chosen to be the guy who's not going to back down or play nice at all with the right, which is, I mean, I think it's pretty good for his notoriety, for his name recognition, because, you know, if you got Elon talking about you, you're doing something right. But yeah, it definitely is. Yeah, I personally wouldn't want to bite that off.
He keeps wanting to become like the anti-right guy, but also he's a huge shill for Israel and telling IDF soldiers that if they commit war crimes to turn off their cameras. He went to Israel and like told them all, hey, if you want to go rape people and kill people, just make sure to turn off the body cam. It's like, what the? So if you want to be, the left's hero that's going pushing against the right, you pick the wrong side when it comes to the Middle East conflict. He's kind of boxed himself in. And also just there's weird things going on. Like I don't know. I don't want to get too personal with it, but it's it's just it's kind of even though I disagree with him on everything, it's just kind of a shame where it's taken him. Like I'll speak about it because it's public. His son was all over Twitter. Yo. You know, he was DMing me, and I'm not saying this to kind of like, you know, be like, oh, own, but it's just, man, I wouldn't wish that upon any of my my enemies or my ops. Just like this is, you know, that crosses a line, man. When from my perspective, it's like, now, even though I have so many disagreements with him, seeing that happen is it's like, hey, maybe you should slow down on the content, and there's other areas of focus your energy should go towards. Yeah, I mean, I say that with empathy.
His son, for the people who don't know, has essentially declared himself to be a Nick Fuentes supporter, and is kind of, I don't know if he used the word Nazi, but he's kind of declared himself to be very much in opposition to everything that Destiny is seemingly about. And yeah, I mean, that's like a wild thing that I think every parent in this day and age kind of considers, is like, oh shit, like, is my kid just gonna turn into a op one day and just hop on social media and just start like, you know, airing out their version of their childhood? Especially like, you know, Destiny obviously like hasn't been really around for his kid's life. I get the idea that things didn't really go that smoothly with the mom, so he's kind of gone off into his own little world. And man, I don't know, that's just like a fucking really bizarre situation for him to be in. I really feel for him, because that's got to be a nightmare.
That's a tough situation. And I think that's a good example of, like, if you invest too much time or too much of your life and your energy into content, then you just become a rage baiter. Like, what else is Destiny now besides a walking rage baiter who's just there to piss off conservatives because he thinks that is justified because conservatives piss him off?
Well, to be fair to Destiny, you know, I kind of felt like when he was hit with all these, sexual lawsuits and all these people making these crazy videos about him, I mean, he has the hardcore leftist audience who usually are the first people to flee the scene when that kind of stuff comes out. And it feels like his fan base has been pretty much with him, and they don't seem all that bothered by it, which is kind of, I mean, shit, that's the kind of fan base you want, is the kind that's not going to leave when you get, accused of some shit. Yeah.
I don't even know if they're leftists. Like, I think his fan base now is just like other chronically online rage baiters, because the left is predominantly, overwhelmingly pro-Palestine, and Destiny is speaking to the IDF in Israel. Like, there's not a big overlap. You know, the modern leftist does not identify with what he believes in at all.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of these people are just trolls.
If you wanted to watch somebody who spoke for sort of like mainstream leftist opinion, you would probably go watch Hassan. And I do think Hassan, I think usually will have like 30K, 40K people watching him on Twitch, and Destiny.
If that's real.
Yeah. Usually when I see Destiny, though, it's more like 4K, 5K watching him on YouTube or whatever. But yeah, I mean, the bots on Twitch, I mean, I hear so much about this now. And you know, I'm sure you saw that experiment that Ludwig did where he basically started like a brand new channel and started streaming, and he streamed for like 8 hours and never got a viewer. And that's, I guess, to be expected. And one thing he said in the middle of it was, oh, now I understand why people bot. because if he botted 2,000 viewers, he would immediately start to get a shitload more viewers from rising up in the directory. Twitch has a real problem in that regard.
And Kick, everyone's botting. Sometimes I cross stream mostly on Kick and Rumble, and there was a screenshot that went viral because I stream on Party, Kick, Rumble, and sometimes Twitter. Someone screenshotted my Rumble views, and I mostly just stream on Rumble because it's easier for the Clippers. And someone said, "Oh, Sneako fell off because I had 300 viewers on Rumble." That's a platform that I don't promote, and this also shows why everyone bots. Because if you're gonna show like one of the platforms and say you fell off here, it's like people, that mentality is going to scare people. That's the worst thing a creator wants to hear. Also, if you get promoted more and you get paid more, because on Kick, the KCIP program, it doesn't recognize bots, so you literally get paid more to bot. If you spend 10% of your income, you say you give a company in India 10% of your revenue so that they can bot up your streams and you take more, they make more money and you make more money. Then you get a higher gambling deal because the gambling company thinks you have more money. So why would you not bot? I think I'm the only one. I don't take a gambling deal, so I'm not incentivized to do it. But I see everybody else. It's like, why the fuck would you not?
Man, I can't imagine doing it just because, like, if you do it, you kind of got to keep doing it. You got to keep. That's interesting. You just said like you pay 10% of your income to a bot farm in India. Is that really how they do it? I was picturing people were just kind of micromanaging it themselves, but damn, that's crazy.
No, there's companies that do it, and pretty much every Twitch streamer does it as well. Maybe I'm exposing it. I don't care. They have, the bot systems are so advanced now. It's a bunch of phones hooked up to like one computer that the phones will watch the ads. So every Twitch streamer makes money to bot. So if you bought half of your viewership, you give that company 10% of your revenue, and then you take 90%. You're making, you're barely even, why would you not do it?
Right. And so then the other weird part of it is the Clipper era that we're in. So how much money do you invest into that? And notably, like Neon at one point had a DJ Vlad interview, and he said that he had spent $200,000 in a month on Clippers. And I don't understand how that would ever be profitable or a good idea. But one thing is for sure is that it feels like Neon is getting all of these crazy opportunities with rappers and celebrities partially because of that. It feels like Neon is fucking huge because every time I look at Twitter, I see him all the time. But then sometimes I'll notice, oh, I haven't seen Neon on Twitter for a while. Maybe he scaled back how much he's willing to pay his Clippers.
Yeah, I mean, he's doing great. He's making a lot of money. I just saw he got a penthouse. Love Neon. And it makes sense. He's getting the return on investment. People called him insane. But man, I talked to him. He's doing really well. He's showing off his new houses and everything. So obviously it's worthwhile. I spend a lot on Clippers. I have a Discord server. People could still join and become Clippers. I have a system. Some people get, I have some consistent people that are on salary, and a lot of people just get paid through my clipping program. But I'm not spending close to 200,000. Not even close.
Yeah, if I spent 200,000 on Clippers this week or this month, I feel like I would probably lose close to all of the $200,000 because, like, for me, each incremental viewer that you gain as a result of the promotion that you get from those stream clips is really not that relevant, right? It seems like it's such a strange business model to me.
No, it's not. A lot of it is perception for the companies. The companies think that you're more relevant. So this is what you should do if you're going to be an IRL streamer right now. It's kind of dystopian. You should bot your viewers. Maybe you have 30 to 50, maybe 100 loyal community members. Bot your way up to 20,000 live viewers. Then spend a lot on Clippers. Then your perception is that, oh, look, you're really famous. I see you everywhere. Celebrities are going to come on. They look at your stream. Oh, look, 20,000 people, and more celebrities want to come on. The chat is slow, but people don't really know how to conceptualize how many people are actually on there. More companies are going to give you deals because they believe in the numbers. Even if they know it's fake, perception literally is reality. So everyone else is going to believe it anyway. You're going to make a lot of money. And I completely understand why people do it, but I just don't want to.
We live in a crazy era
and then never get out.
We live in a crazy era where you got to spend money on fake viewers and Clippers to bring in real viewers, and this is all basically just done to keep up impressions. You understand, like when the audio leaked of Young Thug basically telling somebody on his team to buy Gunna the equivalent of 50,000 album sales so that he could have a #1 record, so that they could, publicly enjoy the good press of Gunna having a #1 album. I mean, when you hear like one of the biggest rappers in the game having that conversation, it's just like, oh fuck. It actually makes me think about so many people I've interviewed over the years whose music seemed like it did very well, and then I interview them and the interview does horrible, and I'm like, oh, so you don't have almost any real fans? This is all fake, and you got me to waste like hours of my life researching you and then interviewing you, and nobody gave a fuck? Like, god damn, what a weird world I live in now.
Everybody in the music industry is doing it. They all do bundles. I'm sure you know about the bundling scam they do, where you sell vinyls, or they do pre-sales and they do merch bundles. It says, oh, look, you got 115K first week. It's like every artist needs to do that, because it has ruined the industry. But once again, I mean, the pendulum's going to swing the other way. People are going to want what's real.
Definitely. So, I mean, it's kind of interesting because now, especially in the wake of the Charlie Kirk shit, we've seen Fuentes doing more and more content and kind of being, just out there more. And it really stands out when I think about it that Nick, I mean, the fandom that he has, given that he has absolutely no support on any kind of mainstream level, and that he's completely canceled, that, even him going on something like Patrick David Bettman, whatever, that's like huge for him. That's like, most mainstream. Like, I remember when I interviewed him like 3 years ago, people were horrified that I did this. I ended up getting a Media Matters article written about us, basically calling us white supremacist, sympathizers and everything like that. How does that feel to see that him having gone, completely in the furthest direction of not being brand safe and not, holding his tongue on nearly anything, has essentially caused him to become maybe arguably like the biggest right-wing influencer at this point?
It's another one of those situations where I was just right too early. I set up that interview. Remember, I was
you did. Yeah, you were on it as well. Yeah.
Yeah, it was you. And who else? There was AD. Did he leave your company?
Yeah, AD was on it for the whole thing, and then Flacco was there as well, who himself is very conservative.
He dissed me on a song I just saw 2 days ago. He said something. I do a little stream, but I ain't nothing like Sneako, crippin' all the time. I ain't nothing like Pico, it was pretty good. It was a pretty good song, but I was like, oh shit, what? Why you say fuck me for? What did I do? I don't know what your falling out was. But yeah, I mean,
he needs new ops, I guess. Yeah.
A lot of my strikes, actually, 2 of my strikes on YouTube were Nick Fuentes related. I took a lot of hits platforming him, and I saw at the time I disagree with some of the stuff he says. A lot of the stuff he says, I agree with a lot of it too. But I'm an American. I'm a patriot. I believe that people have the right to free speech and expressing themselves, and I know what it's like to be censored everywhere. I know what it's like to be lied about, and I saw that happen to him. So I wanted. I thought it was unfair, and I wanted him to be able to have a platform. I remember setting up the interview on No Jumper, and Fresh and Fit, whatever. A lot of this stuff, and I just did it too soon, and it's kind of bittersweet because now he's on PBD, and I think he has like some big shows coming up, Joe Rogan potentially. And it's like when I was doing it, I took so much heat. I got the misinformation strike about the election was a stream that I did with him. Another one of my strikes was for hate speech or something, and that was another stream I did with him where I was joking around about something. I can't even remember, but yeah, that was two of my strikes, and then all this ADL attacks and my Wikipedia. I took a lot of damage platforming him and putting him on, and encouraging him and propping him up and all this. Not putting him on, but for promoting him, I guess.
Yeah.
And I just did it too soon. And so it's out to see all these people, Russell Brand, all this stuff. It's like, but there's no point in being bitter about it. That's just the nature of the game. And you're not going to get the credit or there's no point in even expecting to get credit for that, because you're not going to get it. You just do it because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Because they're going to lie about people like that, because they need to hold back truth speakers. So I'm really happy to see him succeed. But I think, selfishly, one of the annoying parts is seeing a lot of his fans. A lot of his fans are just there's no appreciation, or a lot of them just attack. A lot of them just attack me all the time because I am mixed race. say I'm a brown Muslim. A lot of that stuff is jokes, and I don't care about it. But for the fact that like knowing the damage that I took to do all this stuff, and it's all forgotten. That's just the nature of the industry. So I'm happy to see him succeed. But some of the stuff is like, okay, he wants to deport Muslims, and this is like, dude, aren't we friends? And we had this debate in Spain where he's saying like, oh, I need friends that are gonna ride or die for me. It's like, do you want me to rape, kill, and die for you? Like, what do you? You're saying you want to deport me. Why would I die and rape and stuff for you when you don't even? When you're saying that you don't want me in America? Maybe it's jokes or whatever, but we have some disagreements, but we do agree on some of the most important issues, and I think that's what I should focus on.
Yeah, it's kind of wild because obviously when I had my first Media Matters article claiming that I was a racist, white supremacist sympathizer, I kind of already knew going in that it wasn't going to really do anything. But at the same time, I definitely felt like, oh shit, there are some rappers who their PR basically would tell them, oh, they're currently dealing with like a white supremacist controversy. And if you're some rapper that's not like super clued into what's going on social media and everything, that sounds pretty bad. So definitely it hurt a little bit at the time, but for the most part, I mean, having these like huge media companies say stuff like that about you and write these kind of articles about you, it's never meant less. It's never been easier to ignore.
True.
It's never been less likely to show up in your Google search results because there's just so many other things. And, I can't lie, as much as I have like seen Trump going against the media in a variety of ways, and it's kind of worrisome, seeing him go against media companies who have previously done the thing that he, I guess, is kind of constantly dealing with, which is being misrepresented and accused of being aligned with extremists or whatever. I'm in his corner. Yeah, Media Matters, you're done. Get the fuck out of here. I actually read this whole article about them where they're, I guess, going into huge amounts of debt. They're considering having to shut down because Trump, I think Elon actually as well is like suing the shit out of them to the tune of it's costing them millions and millions and millions of dollars. So, scumbag corporations like that, I have a hard time feeling too bad for them. And I've even heard like kind of the same thing about oh fuck, who is it that's really suffering right now? That's probably not going to last much longer. I forget what I was going to say as an example, but yeah, it's a weird time.
And it's good. I mean, people like you just even deserve credit for that. Like you had me and Nick on in that podcast back 3 years ago when you were taking all this, when people still believed in the ADL, when they believed in that. And now everybody knows, everybody's awake now. It doesn't hurt the same. But those people who were the first, the people that were, pushing the boundaries and opening up the conversation, pushing the Overton window, Ye is like a perfect example of that. These people, although they, sometimes you could slip up or you could get called crazy, you got to appreciate the ones who are courageous enough to take heat, to tell the truth, and to have difficult conversations.
When I realized how fucked up the internet was, oh my God, it's still doing it too. All right, so I did an episode. Oh, there it is. Yeah, I did an episode with Destiny and Richard Spencer doing a debate, right? And so I searched up Richard Spencer interview when I was preparing for it because I wanted to do some research. And I noticed that like the whole first page of results for Richard Spencer interview was really old stuff from like Unite the Right, that rally back in the day, like 8 years ago, whatever. And then I searched Richard Spencer interview, but to show the most recent examples of that. And there was tons of stuff. He had gone on all these live streams and done all this content. And YouTube was like actively suppressing any new information about Richard Spencer. Like they basically had decided, we just don't want you to have any new content that you do be spread out to the masses. And even right now, when I search Richard Spencer interview, I have to scroll past like 8 videos that are all basically from like 8 years ago, many of which have like 10,000, 15,000 views. And then I finally, after probably like 15, I finally get to the episode that we actually did. So like, I mean, that shit is no joke. Like people talking about Richard Spencer that is being actively suppressed by the platform. And I mean, this is a guy who, if anything, they should probably be propping up because he's kind of had a bit of a swing himself and kind of turned against Trump and the whole Nazi shit. He kind of turned his back on all that. It was actually kind of a weird episode because he basically like had kind of turned his back on like all of the stuff that he had gone viral for talking about in the first place.
YouTube deserves a lot of criticism for admitting that they fucked up people's lives because I think the major aspect, and maybe there's a legal case in here, I'll probably drop it if they just unban me, but so they admitted that I was banned I was wrongfully banned. You bring up a great point. If you search my name on YouTube, how many documentaries, how many liberals, how many of these like soy boy types have made hours and hours of content attacking me and slandering me on a website that I'm literally not allowed to defend myself on. So not only did I take monetary hits, but reputational hits, and so many people come up to me angry, like, I hate you, Sneako. I'm like, why? What did I say? They have no idea because they haven't seen any of my content. Yeah. This is a repeated, it happens so often where people are like, you spread hate. Like, okay, what did I say? And they don't know because YouTube and all these social media platforms have not allowed me, and it's just allowed people to say I'm hateful without any clear examples, right? This is not only, something monetary, but is that not defamation? Is that not slander?
Yeah, but I mean, to be fair, I just searched your name and it's not as dire as Richard Spencer's situation where like a lot of more recent podcasts seem to show up for yours. Whereas with his, it's like they really front load all the search results with all this really old stuff. And then finally, after you get past all that, it's like, okay, we'll show you a little bit of stuff more recent. Yeah. But okay, I really wanted to ask you about the Kanye thing. How did that conversation even start in the first place, and what actually led up to you being out there?
So I first worked with him 3 years ago on Ye 24. That was his political campaign, which he ended up being so right about, and people don't talk about that enough. So that was the only campaign. He was running against Trump that was saying, we need to get AIPAC out of America. That's the biggest lobby in America. It's a foreign lobby, but it's not registered as one. JFK wanted to register AIPAC as a foreign lobby, and we all saw what happened to JFK, rest in peace. Everybody since then has allowed it, and they brag about how 98% of the politicians that they bribe win their elections. The Ye 24 said, okay, let's put this aside. No more Israel. So I first worked with him there, and I didn't speak to him for a long time. I was doing edits and content and strategy, this stuff. And then I saw him again in Spain. That came about, I think he shouted me out on stream. He was promoting his new album called Kirk. It's a great album. It's not released. Dave Blunt's wrote most of it. He talked about that. And he said, streamers come out here. And I immediately went. A lot of people were afraid to go, even though Ye is the greatest artist of all time. At least if you don't think he's the greatest, the most influential. I was there living with him for 5 weeks, and it was a great time. Just today, some of the footage came out. I'm not sure who posted it. I think it was a producer of me editing the Heil Hitler music video, working on. It was very intense work. It was a lot of streams, but not only that, I was doing a lot of working on a lot of the content with him. And just because I wanted to fulfill his vision, and also it's just like a lifelong dream of mine. So that's my favorite artist.
What does it take to maintain many months of existing in the Kanye, sphere? Because I've heard from a lot of people that it can be kind of hard to exist in this realm, and that a lot of times he sort of tends to cycle through people he's on good terms with. He'll be hanging out with somebody for a couple months, and then it ends up not working out. Like, from when you got in there, what was your attitude? Like, I'm going to kind of be a fly on the wall and just get in where I fit in? Or were you like, you know what, I'm going to go here, I'm going to be outspoken, and I'm going to say whatever I want to say? Because it feels like he wants that. Like, he wants people to kind of push back and argue with him a little bit and stuff like that. But then ultimately it feels like if you really push back too much, you're going to maybe kind of get X'd out of the whole situation with him.
You're going to get exiled. That's a great question. And actually, sometimes I literally did feel like a fly on the wall, because in the second house we were in, there was a big living room, and I made this video called Living Room. And that's where the studio was. But then also I found out that there was an upper level, that there was like this balcony area, and it was great to film in. So a lot of the footage from my camcorder was where I was up there. And after a while, sometimes I'd be up there so much that he would forget I was there. They'd be like, oh, you're here? Like, because I record and talk back there. I was literally like a fly on the wall. And that's how I would kind of, because sometimes filmers can be distracting. Yeah. We all know how it is to create content. When you have a filmer there with a big shotgun mic flipping back and forth, it feels like a Nelk Boys video, and it's kind of performative. with somebody like him, yeah, it's just like you're flipping back and forth. You're doing content. You got to let him create. Some people say it's glazing or stuff, but the way I see it is that you got to let the director direct. He's a director. Everything he sees and everything he does, he's like Stanley Kubrick in every aspect. So I didn't want to interrupt his process, and I became aware of how to help try to steer him in the right direction at the right time. The first time I worked with him, I did too much pushing back, too much challenging, because I thought that was the way, like, I knew there were a lot of yes men. So my thought process was, all right, I'm going to be the antithesis to the yes man. And then I ended up pissing him off a little bit. This time I was challenging him, but I wouldn't interject too much because I didn't want to interrupt his flow state, because he was in album mode, which was such a great thing to see. So I figured out how to work with him. I just talked to him yesterday for the first time in a while. We haven't been speaking as much, but he hit me up, and I think something really big is coming. And I think people are starting to come around after all the crazy stuff. You know, it was pretty crazy in the beginning of the year. People are starting to come around and understand it, especially after that documentary, and appreciate, you know, what he's done for the culture. So he always rebounds. First he said slavery was a choice and people hated him, and then he came back. Then he said white lives matter, they hated him. Then he came back and they said, well, white lives do matter.
I mean,
so
it's crazy when you think about that was like the beginning of the year, I guess, that he was just on Twitter every day, wilding out, saying the wildest shit, the most, antagonistic shit. And then he goes away, and we kind of just accept that. It's not, nobody's really having conversations about like, oh, where's Ye? Why is he on Twitter? Whatever. And then, I mean, I'm sure he's just going to pop back up at some point, but he kind of let the whole election go by without really like jumping down our throats too much, or like really being involved with that in any way. We haven't heard him about Charlie Kirk, which has been probably the biggest news story of the year, for sure. The biggest news story of the year. It's weird how he picks the spots of when he wants to, make his presence known. And then he'll go these extremely long, extended time periods without saying a word. And then he'll just pop back up and have nonstop shit to say every day for months and months and months.
And then everyone calls it crazy. And then later on, a lot of those ideas, they infect the subconscious and people start thinking about them again. It's time. And I don't want to reveal too much, but it was good to hear from him. And I'm excited for what's coming with that, man. Who's your favorite artist?
In current times, man, I'm still kind of like trying to figure out where I'm at with Young Thug. He was always like my favorite, like modern rapper for a long time. But man, I don't know. I'm just kind of bored with rap, man. Like it's just sort of, it's at a weird point right now. I don't know. It's not great. But I mean, I still love Drake. The Kendrick album was a great album from my perspective. Thug, obviously, I went to the YoungBoy concert. He's awesome. I don't know though. It's like, things have changed so much from like 2016, 2017, when I could have just rattled off a list of like 50 new rappers that I was hyped on. It's like, it's a little bit harder to be hyped on rap at this moment.
It sounds like you got the fatigue.
Yeah, no, facts for sure. At least to some extent, for sure. I got a little bit of fatigue. Okay, I
love Ninja. That new song by Young Thug is one of my favorite songs. Ninja's great. I'm sure you heard that. I'm not even trolling. That's one of my new favorite songs.
Every time I hear it, it sends me off on a journey mentally, thinking about how insane this song is and how crazy this is.
Let's sing it word for word.
You can do that. I will gladly listen in.
I'm putting it out there. I want the Ye Drake album. I think everyone not only wants that, it's like the Dark Knight. Maybe people who don't know they need it, but it's going to save culture. The Ye Drake album is inevitable. It needs to happen. What do you think?
I mean, Ye jumped into the Kendrick and Drake beef. He tried to, at least. He put out the remix to the Future.
Like that remix was great.
I mean, I'm gonna be real. It didn't really get any attention. Didn't seem like it really did much. The diss part of it was pretty weak. It wasn't really like.
But it wasn't really a diss. He was using. He added the hooligans. Remember that line? I just fucked your bitch and a Sean John tank top. Sean John is Diddy's clothing brand.
Yeah.
So already early on, he was instilling the idea into people that, okay, maybe Diddy is not who we think he is. A lot of this stuff, it gets appreciated later on.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel like Drake has given Ye a bunch of second chances, including like the time with Jay Prince when they kind of patched it up and did a concert together. And I feel like Drake giving people second chances in and of itself is pretty rare. He's just like such a big artist, he doesn't really have to do that. But then I feel like in addition to that, it's kind of like I don't think he feels like he can trust Kanye. I think he feels like if he fucks with Kanye and does anything with him, it's gonna go badly. And I mean, like, there's a lot of people like that too. Like even like Jay-Z and Kanye will probably never be cool again. He's just said too much crazy shit. He's proven to Jay that he's just not a trustworthy companion. And I just feel like, yeah, there's this. You're really kind of like seeing even like the Ty Dolla $ign. I don't know if we're ever gonna see that again. It seems like Ty's kind of over it. Pusha T's out of there.
No, I think Ty. I met Ty recently. I think that there's some. I think there's some signals that they're willing to.
Oh, okay.
To work again, and I also think Travis Scott put out some positive signals in the right direction. Pusha T, that might take a long time. Or probably that one's probably, that ship has probably sailed. But
yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, you know, from my perspective, I kept watching you on these stream clips that would be popping up on my feed and everything, and I'm just wondering when I watch that, like, would I have the patience to be able to be in this environment for weeks and weeks and weeks at a time and not just like get frustrated and be like, okay. Cause like, you know, as a streamer, you're just used to being able to do your own thing. You're used to be able to make your own schedule, show up to work when you want to work, do whatever kind of content you want to do. But then once you're around Kanye, like I've heard from people that it's like, if Kanye wants to make music at 4 a.m. and he wants you involved, like you are getting up, you are involved. Yeah. And that I don't know. I feel like I would probably have a hard time fitting in that world. Was there any times where you were like, nah, bro, I can't keep doing
there was actually. I think 3 weeks in, and see, people underestimate. I was living in the same house. Like this is sometimes I'd wake up. Imagine waking up. It's like 1 p.m. You stop working at 6 or 7. You open the door, and it's like it's Ye, and you're ready to work. Oh shit! Imagine seeing like that's the first person you see in the morning. It's kind of like a weird. You'll still like half, but I think 2 weeks in, 2 or 3 weeks in, I was like, man, I can't do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. And I had my flight booked, but then we spoke about it, and you know we were able to fix the situation. And I ended up staying for like another 3 weeks, and people kept back home were like, are you trapped in a Spanish prison? Like, how long are you going to stay there? You're used to being the boss and having the freedom and being, I guess, the Ye, you know, to all the employees and your people around you. But that's just one of those experiences where you're soaking up game. It's like working with, imagine being a soccer player and you're Lamine Yamal, whatever. I don't know if you know football. Lamine Yamal's 18 and he plays for Barcelona. Imagine being able to work under Cristiano Ronaldo's wing for like a summer. You're going to take that opportunity. You're going to be able to learn from the best. And although you might be the superstar and people think you're the hot shit, if you want to get to the next level, you got to take those opportunities. So I just saw it as an opportunity to learn from the best.
Was it worth it financially from your perspective in terms of the increased number of people who are paying attention to you, watching your streams, etc.? Was it worth it from that perspective?
See, you know what's funny? I kept having a conversation with Aiden when I was there, and he's like, oh, you got to be able to benefit from this. You got to benefit from this. Like, people were telling me that I should sell the footage that I have. Not Aiden, but people were telling me, because I have all this footage. I have like, you know, 13 hours of footage that people haven't seen. A lot of stuff is really interesting. But people were telling me that I should leak it or like do a big debut on Kick and sell it. Like, oh, look at this, I'm revealing all this. But I'm like, I don't like to think that way. I think if you think in terms of short-term gain or like cash grabs, you're preventing long-term friendships and long-term business relationships, or just long-term, even bigger than that, like long-term goals. Like, this is a lifelong dream of mine. And also even bigger than that, I respect his vision and his artistic abilities. Like, why am I gonna, you know, fuck up his artistic vision to make a little bit of money when the album that he could potentially put out is going to change the world? You know, the 808s and Heartbreak changed the rap game. Twisted Fantasy changed my life. Graduation is played at weddings to this day. If you're going to be selfish enough to interrupt that to make a little bit of money, I think that you deserve to be exiled and hung by a tree. You deserve to be lynched, and you should be guillotined like the old French princes. I don't want to interrupt that stuff. I don't view, these are the types of opportunities that I don't view with money in mind, because that's not the only currency. That's not the only value. And I'm glad I don't think of it that way, because I would have got much less out of it.
Definitely. But okay, was there times where like what kind of stuff brought you to the brink in terms of like was that real? Like you got to wake up at 4 a.m. to just like, do something like randomly. Like he was just kind of, he's just operating at this crazy schedule that nobody else really would.
Yeah. If you want to work with him, I mean, seeing him at like peak creative mode, album mode, you get ideas random, like at dinner, and I capture a lot of those moments and release them, or it's at 4 a.m. or after a little nap, and you just kind of got to be on. And that could be draining, and it can be tiring, it can be exhausting, but those are memories that I look upon fondly.
Definitely. Yeah. I find as I get older that like when I hit like 8 p.m., it's a lot harder to summon that energy. Like when I have plans, when people tell me that like, yo, you gotta go to the club with us, you gotta go to this thing, I'm just like, holy shit, leaving the house after 8 p.m., like especially as a dad who is routinely woken up at 6 a.m. by my kid, I'm just like, holy fuck, that sounds insane. I try to do it. I still try to like, push myself to the brink to, really make the most out of life. But man, it can be a little tough the older you get.
How old are you now?
41, almost 42.
Oh, okay. I mean, yeah, he's older. He's almost, but he's on a different schedule. You're probably you're more of a schedule guy. Like you sleep this many hours and then you wake up and show up at the studio. Though how Ye was then was like a nap here, a nap there. It's just like sleep. I think album mode is a different mindset where you can't be on a specific schedule.
Yeah, I think about that sometimes because when I look at somebody like Andrew Callahan from Channel 5, he's someone who, I kind of like built my whole life so that I could have like a schedule and be able to create a lot of content in one place. Andrew Callahan, on the other hand, he basically like lives his life. Whatever is going on, there's a riot in this state, boom, he's there. There's something crazy going on in Mexico, boom, he's there. He just is kind of like at the whim of the news cycle, which allows him to create a ton of content that is super fucking viral and topical and popular at that moment, because a lot of times, when there is crazy stuff going on, like the ICE riot, the anti-ICE protests, etc., it's like that's probably the number one thing that you could be doing at that moment if you want to get viewers, is to be in the middle of some shit that is so topical, everybody's talking about it. But at the same time, a lot of times, even like in the Kendrick and Drake stuff, I'm seeing Ack and he is just on stream instantly as soon as something like that pops off. But meanwhile, like I'm, at a private school tour with my kid or some shit, or I'm at Chuck E. Cheese, and it's just like, oh fuck, like if I wanted to really be like making the content about the thing at that moment, you got to really be able to take everything else in your life and put it to the side, which is tough. The more responsibilities you have, the harder it is to live that kind of schedule,
Yeah, if you want to fully invest your life and make the best content possible, you have to not have other responsibilities. You need to have complete freedom in that sense. And I was talking to, the manager, publicist type person earlier. It's like, man, I've been in the game. I'm sure you think this too. There's people that were able to leverage social media and then become kind of an outsider. And there's few people that were able to do it, where you don't need to be part of the routine and like the stream grind. You asked me earlier, like, how much do you stream? I can't imagine, like, I'm pushing 30. I don't want to stream like Mafia-thon and do crazy hours like that. I want to say what I was saying, talk to my community, but like, man, fuck that. I can't, I just have no interest in doing it. And there's some people that like Logan Paul or like Kyle from the Nelk Boys that have used social media, that did that grind, and then were able to leverage that and then become, make the right business deals and pop in when they need to, but not be Andrew Callahan. I think Aiden's on the right track to be that as well, where he did the crazy stuff, but now it's like, okay, now I'm going to become the business guy and do real estate and crypto and kind of prop up other people. And even Kai, he's young. I think that's what he's doing with his group. I'm not sure what they're called, but I love his new group. I think some people think I'm a Kai hater. Bro, I mean, Tota's so funny. I love Rakai. I think people are maybe surprised to hear that. I love the Tota, Rakai. I can't remember the other name. Oh, Ray, I think he's so funny. The smart thing to do for him is like, okay, he did all this crazy stuff. Let me prop up my friends, and then they'll do the crazy thing, and then I'll be like the mentor from the outside and like do movies and then be with Drewski and Kevin Hart, because I can't do Mafiathon forever. I can't always be the guy. You know, people joke and say like, oh, I'm not going to be on FaceTime 24 hours. I'm not Kai Cenat. He can't do that forever. It's smart for him to make his impact and make a statement, and then get out. And you've kind of done that. I mean, I think the no jumper that everybody remembers is like the 2016 where you were there with Ian Connor, Ass Pizza, early Cardi, all these, you know. Did you do a Cardi interview early?
I was around Cardi a few times real early on, but in retrospect, that's one of the biggest things that I regret, is that I should have fought harder, because, I was doing so much content that I kind of like would do a lot of these random underground rappers, but then certain people like a Cardi or a Lil Uzi Vert, I know I could have got them. I just had to like fight harder, and I should have fought harder for like certain people that I really believed in. But the thing is, you really don't know who's going to pop off and become superstars, right? But then also, in addition to that, it's kind of like what I should have done is I should have offered them money, because I guarantee you in those early days, if I had said, yo, Cardi, I'll give you $1,000 to do an interview. And keep in mind, this is like 5 years before it became like normal to offer people money to do interviews. If I had said, yo, I'll give you $1,000, I'll give you $2,000, I would have been able to lock that shit in, got it done. And then like, it would have been like the biggest classic. And, that never occurred to me at the time. Like some of those people, if I had been forward thinking enough at that time to offer them a couple $1,000, I bet I could have got the 21 Savage interview, all these other dudes. But yeah, I mean, like now, me and my girl do talk about that a lot, because I think, both of us have the aspirations of at some point just kind of falling back and being able to live a life. I personally see myself making content for the rest of my life, regardless of how popular it is or how much people want to hear from me. I just feel like I'm always going to want to hop on stream, talk about topics, even if at some point I was the kind of guy who was making a couple $1,000 a month off YouTube. I feel like I would still appreciate that and still want to have conversations with the community that I got and everything. But I don't know. I mean, I definitely think about that too, because I just know that when 42 sounds crazy. Like when I'm 50, none of this shit is guaranteed. Like there's new people coming out every day, new people that are creating content, and the marketplace keeps getting more and more competitive. And for sure, I just don't want to be some old head that's like doing a bunch of shit that he doesn't feel like doing, trying to scrape it together. But yeah, I don't know. It's wild getting older in this space. Like when I wish that streaming and all this shit existed when I was 21 or 18 or whatever, because I can't even imagine what it would have been like to have that much, like the energy that I had when I was 21, and to have had something like streaming to put that energy into. I can't even imagine how crazy I would have gone, or how hard I would have been working on it,
But I mean, everything happens for a reason. I mean, also you were a pioneer in a way. Like those interviews, man, they changed culture. I think people sometimes forget that. Like, especially people in the chat. Like, do you guys remember the XXXTentacion interview? Those vlogs with Juice World, especially the early Florida scene that you were really on top of before. Like that type of content changed the rap game. Like you were a pivotal and part of that. So.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's weird, because it's like I have so many eras and moments that I'm thankful to have been able to create, be able to be a part of. Obviously, anytime you don't really have the craziest shit going on, people are going to use that against you to say, oh, look, you're doing this many views, and you used to do this many views, and you used to do this content, and you haven't done that kind of content in a while. But I feel like what so many people miss out on is like, if I had just tried to keep doing the exact same thing that I was doing initially, the shit would have crumbled and fallen apart by now so much. Like it's only through like constantly being willing to pivot and try different things that this business in general has been able to survive, but a lot of people, their perspective is too short to really understand that.
I mean, there's no point in listening to that. The fact that you've maintained like it being in social media this long is like, how many people are able to fucking do that? How many people that were like relevant in 2014 are still here kicking it, making money. I can name like on one hand.
I'm telling you, man, I watched like a little YouTube video the other day about what happened to the top YouTubers from 2016. And they're talking about Keemstar, they're talking about Fousey, they're talking about Leafy.
Ethan Klein, I gotta give it. I mean, I like H3. I hate the fuck. Well, I don't hate, but the new one sucks.
Well, yeah, you got to give it to him that he still has a huge audience, even though, yeah, I'm not a fan of his content at all. Which I used to watch his YouTube videos, loved him back in the day.
Vape Nation, man, that was the best.
Yeah, not really a huge fan of where he's at now. It feels like he's kind of experienced like a pretty massive decline. I don't know if I think his views have taken a real hit. I remember like his podcast would be like getting like 1 million views plus, and now last time I looked at his channel, it was kind of like 500,000 views each episode. Which, I mean, if that trend continues, I mean, obviously 500,000 per episode is still really good, but I mean, if that trend continues, it's kind of scary. But yeah, I mean, like so many people from that era that I kind of came up watching and came up alongside really don't got almost anything going on. And yeah, it's you got
a lot of them have this like, I'm glad you're able to pivot into stuff like that you're interested in. I don't know if this is true, but during this interview I keep thinking about like the contrast between this conversation and then you talking to like some O Block gang, like 17-year-old YNs that are like, yeah, like just like leaned out on the stream, like on the phone and grave. It's like there's no, and I see those. I'm like, there's no chance that Adam is interested in what these people have to say whatsoever. They're like, you have to ask him, yo, so what's with your beef and Glizzy murderer? He's like, foot. It's just like there's no chance. The fact that you're able to have conversations that you're interested in is great, and it's like a great comparison to the other people. And I think about people like PewDiePie who were really relevant in 2016. That guy said the hard R and then disappeared to Japan and had a family. It's like this guy was able to escape the matrix. Yeah. You look at it like an Ethan Klein or an iDubbbz, and they just have this blank Ozempic stare, like trying to appeal to woke people, even though they're like 40 and 50, and they clearly don't give a fuck about trans ideology. They're just doing it to get like woke points from other people who are on Ozempic and antidepressants. This is no existence that anybody should strive for. Yeah. If this is what not falling off is iDubbbz completely pivoting from somebody who was funny to this robot sellout on HRT, then keep it. If Ethan Klein went from the funny edgy guy to whatever the fuck, like this twitchy, like medicated fucking, like keep that. You guys should see this as a warning sign that maybe exiting and having an exit strategy or pivoting to something that you like, or, you know, dialing it back it's just not falling off. It's just, hey, doing this forever is a prison. It is hell.
Yeah, if you don't want to do it, because yeah, when you mentioned PewDiePie or Logan Paul, or, you know, obviously Logan Paul is still going to do a boxing match here and there. I seen he just dropped like a YouTube video about his daughter's first birthday party. You know, I didn't watch it, but I was hyped just seeing that. Like, he's at the point in his life, and granted, he's at the absolute apex of what is possible as a content creator. Everything he did with Prime was obviously incredible, but you know, he beat the game, and now he's like kind of able to chill out and not have to make content all the time if he doesn't want to. And I feel like, yeah, that like PewDiePie especially, man, like he's just living in Japan is really the craziest version of that, because they got a crazy low cost of living. Nobody fucking knows who you are out there. I mean, if you're PewDiePie, maybe some people know who you are, but I went to Japan in like 2018, 2019, something like that, and I might have got like taken like 3 photos in the course of being there for like 10 days. You know, you're pretty removed from everything going on. Personally, I would find it incredibly isolating to live there, but yeah, I mean, I respect people who are able to kind of like figure out an exit plan a bit more than people who are like, you know, 40 still doing like boring YouTuber slop drama content, you know.
But like the content's so, if you watch it, it's like Content Cop went from the funny creative thing to him on Ozempic reading Reddit comments about Hasanabi. It's like, what the fuck happened? Like this chronically online drama beef of, you have to be the most chronically online Redditor to find any of this stuff halfway interesting.
Yeah.
But just the worst. Oh, Filthy Frank got away. Joji was able to, I don't even know if he makes music anymore, but he got out.
I think he does, but yeah, if you think about it, like when I was looking at Filthy Frank back in the day, yeah, you never could have imagined that he would have been able to graduate to something else. But also, I wonder, I think he has like a very real fan base, at least from what I recall. So, you know, he's doing all right for himself, I think. Yo, I gotta actually go and pick my kid up from the babysitter's house, and then I have to pick up these sort of like high-end Choco tacos. There's like a limited release of a salt and straw Choco taco that I guess my wife is very, very excited about. So that's why I have to cut this stream off right now, is because I have to go get the Choco tacos.
That's much more important than that's the most important thing right there. So like, actually, that's a great pivot. You know, we're talking about, you know, giving your life away to this, man. I'm glad that you enjoy fatherhood so much, man.
Oh, dude. Like yesterday, I dropped my kid off at school, me and my wife together. And when we were like 2 blocks away, I reached my hand into the back seat and I said, hey, I want to hold your hand before you go to school because I'm going to really miss you. And she just grabbed my hand with both hands and just held it so tight. And in that moment, I was just like, holy fuck, I'm so glad I'm having another kid. And I'm so glad I did this in the first place. Like that feeling of just knowing how much she loves me was just the absolute peak experience in my life.
Wait, you having another kid?
Yeah, it's in the works, but we're going to keep it kind of low key, but I'm going to keep mentioning it as if I don't give a fuck. So, yeah.
Congratulations, man. I wish the best of luck, man.
Appreciate you, man. Yeah, let's do this again sometime.
I would love to. I mean, we always have good podcasts. I think it's easy to talk to you. And thanks again. Shout out to the No Jumper team and the community. Thanks for having me on, Adam.
Hell yeah. And if you got any like crazy trips that you're going on or anything, let me know. I might be down to pop out, do some streams or some shit like that.
Oh, yeah? I mean, maybe Japan or something. We could link up with PewDiePie and say the hard R.
Well, I might say more of a soft A. I might just stick to the soft A, kind of like ease my way in, you know?
Okay, well, we'll graduate to there eventually. Thanks, Adam.
I'll just play the Young Thug song. That's